Hi, everyone. My name is EJ Anderson, and I am the ex-congressional auditor turned long-haul truck blogger, and also known as the happiest, kindest truck on the road. Welcome to White Glove Trucking, where I use my company and this channel to help you use trucking as a vehicle to live your best life. Now, today's video, Truck Minimal, for more profits and less stress. Now, Truck Minimal, it's all about keeping things simple, keeping your costs down so you can make the most profits while you're out there on the road. Also, to have a little less stress. Now, Truck Minimal is the second piece of my tire strategy. Now, if you don't know what tire is, go watch the earlier video where I kind of introduce and explain what it is. But tire is truck independently, retire early. So it's like you basically enjoy trucking so much that instead of it feeling like work, it feels like you're retired. So the second piece of that, Truck Minimal, is a way to keep things simple, keep your costs down, and save money faster. So this is technically the third video in that tire series of foundational videos that you can use to help you truck your best life. Okay, now when we think about trucking minimal, there are two main areas we want to think about: your business cost and your personal expenses. But before we jump into the business cost, I want to explain to you why managing your cost is so important. Now, to start, I want to give you a quote by one of the greatest businessmen, if not the greatest businessman of all time, John D. Rockefeller. Now, I recently came across this quote and it really stood out to me. I could really relate to this because even though he was talking about the oil industry, it could really pertain to the trucking industry and how it is right now out there. So to show you what I mean, in place of oil everywhere in the quote, I'm just going to use trucking stuff so it can really hit home. Now, this is what he had to say about capacity increasing too much and bringing all the rates down. Now, those owner-operators had bank debt and other fixed costs and discovered by operating at a loss, they could still at least make the truck payment. Obviously, they couldn't lose money indefinitely, but as they soldiered on to postpone bankruptcy, their output dragged trucking rates down to unprofitable levels for everybody. Hence, a perverse effect of the invisible hand of capitalism. Each truck driver pursuing his own self-interest created a collective misery. Every man assumed to struggle hard to get all the business he could, even though in doing so, he brought to himself and competitors in the business nothing but disaster. Oh my God, this quote, when I saw this the first time, I was like, this is how it is. But you can see how this relates to trucking exactly. So, what can we do about this? Okay, there are basically two ways to increase your profits, two main ways. You can either increase your revenues, make more money, or you can reduce your cost. Now, if you choose to go the revenue route, there are two ways you can do it, but in our industry, there's a problem with each one of these. First way, you can increase your volume by just running more miles. And the problem with this way is that we technically are legally limited by the hours of service rules. So you can only run so much legally. Now, the second way is to increase your rate per mile. But the problem here is that we don't control this. The rates are determined by market conditions, which are out of our control. Now, in general, I like to put my energy and efforts into the things that I can control. You know what? It frustrates me all the time when I see these videos or news pieces that talk about, they say, oh, we think this is the bottom, but they don't know. And you're spending way too much energy trying to predict the future. Look, I like to spend my energy and efforts into the things that I can control. And that's why I prefer to focus on the cost piece of profitability, because we can control our costs. All right, now there are two reasons I care about cost. One is an individual reason, and another one is a bigger reason, like a broader collective trucking reason. So let's put our own mask on first before helping others. And so let's tackle the individual reason first. Let's call the individual reason the I don't have to outrun the bear reason. So everybody's heard that quote, I don't have to outrun the bear. I just have to outrun you. And so that's what I like to call the individual cost reason. If you reduce your costs to well below everyone else, then in that quote, when Rockefeller said, when the rates go down to unprofitable levels for everybody, we can change that to when the rates go down to unprofitable levels for everybody except you, because you are trucking minimal. I would just use myself as an example. So before this video, I checked my cost per mile for the current year, 2024, during this down period, and my costs were 77 cents per mile. So by trucking minimal and keeping my cost as low as possible, I have been able to stay profitable even during this extended downturn. So this is the individual piece, and trucking minimal can help you reduce your costs and do the same thing. But I want to see all of truckers doing well, living their best life, trucking their best life. And to do that, we all collectively need to be managing our costs, understanding our costs. And this is why I'm gonna give you another quote by Rockefeller. Oftentimes, the most difficult competition comes not from the strong, the intelligent, the conservative competitor, but from the man who was just holding on by the eyelids and is ignorant of his cost and has got to keep on running or bust. So together, collectively, if we can get a hold and understand our cost, we can avoid this race to freight rate bottom and the destruction of the industry as a whole. Okay, have I convinced you guys? All right, enough school for today. All right, so let's talk about ways you can manage your costs. Let's do business costs first. So here are some of the ways that I truck minimal. First and big thing, choice of truck. I drive an International. I think International is the most cost-effective option. So my strategy is to purchase a new truck every 4 years to avoid maintenance costs and the added stress with having to worry about breakdowns and that sort of thing. Now, I found that at $160,000, a new International gets the job done $25,000 cheaper than the next cheapest option, which during my research, that was Freightliner. This saves me $6,250 a year or $520 a month over the 4-year period. Second thing I do, choice of trailer. So I selected a dry van trailer. And the reason is because the dry van is one of the cheapest trailers you can get, but also it's one of the sort of like the least maintenance, less stress-free option you can get. So I paid $40,000 for my Great Dane dry van. It doesn't require the same type of babysitting that other types of trailers require. For example, if you have a reefer, you've got, number one, reefer is more expensive, but also you have to worry about keeping the items cool or keeping them at a certain temperature. You have that reefer running behind your head all night long. And then if you have hazmat, you can't leave it unattended. You got a flatbed. You got to make sure somebody doesn't get access to your load. So these are things that, for me, I like to drive in a sort of like a free-spirited, adventurous sort of way where I can do things. And the dry van, I found, allows me to do that the best. I guess with one exception, I met a driver once who he was taking coins from the mint, and he parked his truck and had planned to go skiing. And he did not realize it, that the Secret Service was watching him. And so he stepped away from his truck. Secret Service rolled up on him and was like, "Where do you think you're going?" He said, "I'm going skiing." But he was like, "No, you're going back to your truck." So with the exception of taking money from the mint, a dry van is going to be your most inexpensive and stress-free option. Okay, third thing I do to truck minimal. Choice of load. So I get all my loads from the spot market. I know that's kind of controversial. I'm going to hear some things about that. But I get my load from the spot market, and I do not use any kind of load boards that require a subscription. I use all free boards. Now, like I said, I know I'm going to hear something, but I think to truck minimal, I like no contracts. I don't want I don't want to be obligated to have to do a load when I don't want to. Part of trucking minimal to me is being free, being able to take the next day off if I need to, if I want to, anytime. And I found that when you have the opportunity to know that you can just take you're one load away from taking the next day off, it gives you this sort of feeling and this freedom that actually allows you to enjoy doing the work even more. Okay, so here's some general cost management. This is how I keep my costs low by not paying for these common things. Number one, ELD. I have an ELD, but I pay one time, price one time, and I do not pay a monthly subscription. I don't pay for dispatching. I don't pay for someone to do my taxes. I don't pay for invoice factoring, and I do not pay interest on my equipment. And don't worry, I plan on having videos to explain all this stuff in the upcoming months as soon as I can get them done for you guys. So just be on the lookout for those. And until then, look, one final point. Don't be discouraged. It's hard to truck minimal in everything. So I can do my own taxes, but I cannot work on my truck. So I have to pay somebody to work on the truck. Just try to truck minimal in as many ways as you can. You'd be surprised, those little ways adds up. Cost per mile, this little thing saves 5 cents per mile. This little thing saves 2 cents per mile. It all adds up, and you can get down to that 77 cents where I got down to. Now, I'm always trying to truck minimal more. You can always learn things while you're on the road. It's easy to learn things while you're on the road. You can just listen to stuff all day long. You don't know how to do a certain thing, just listen to it and learn. And like I said, soon I'll have some videos out for you guys to listen to while you're driving, and you can learn all these things. All right, well, that is it for business cost. Let's move on to the personal expenses. This is a little bit easier than the business stuff. So now, to truck minimal, and on the personal side, basically how you do it is you go all in on trucking, right? It's just you go all in on the trucking lifestyle, using that nomadic lifestyle to cut back on all those types of expenses that most people have that are living a traditional, like stationary lifestyle. And again, I'll use myself as an example. So I only have 4 recurring personal expenses. So I do pay for food, which that's my most expensive one. It can be anywhere from like $850 to $2,000 a month, depending on if I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, which is preparing one meal, either lunch or dinner. Then that usually that month it'll be like $850. But then if I go off the rails and I'm eating in restaurants more often, then it gets up to about $2,000. Then I've got a phone bill, $56 a month. I got my Planet Fitness subscription, which is $25 a month. You have to have the Black Card, which is $25 if you want to go to all the gyms all over the country as you travel around. And then I got an LA Fitness one too, well, at Sporter now. But that one I paid $450 like at one time. And that was for 3 years. So that equals about $1,250 a month. And that's it. That's my personal expenses. Now, most of your savings will come from these 2 big things that most people have to spend their most money on: housing and utilities. So with housing and utilities, it's easy. The truck is your home. You don't have to worry about those. That's simple. I don't even need to say anything more about that one. Now, when I bought my truck, I traded in my car to CarMax to do it. And I can't tell you how much of a great thing that was. So there's so much less stress when you do not have to worry about having a car when you're trucking. I mean, first, it's the cost aspects of it, which is, you don't have a car payment, you don't have insurance payment, you don't have to pay for gas. But then it's the stress aspect of it. Like before I got rid of my car and it was sitting at the terminal, when I worked as a company driver, I come back and the battery might be dead, the car cover might be blown off, the gas in the tank might be old. And then if you live in a city, you might have parking tickets for not being able to move it to the side of the street for cleaning days. It's just such a stress-free situation not having a car when you are trucking and in the truck most of the time. So basically, for personal expenses, to truck minimal, you just kind of think through all of the things that you do not need anymore because you are not living that stationary life, and just get rid of all those extra things. And there's some other benefits that I'm going to get into later when I do more financial videos on how that can also work in your favor. All right, guys, to sum up, by minimizing both our business and personal expenses, it helps us rapidly accumulate wealth by taking control of our profitability, all while adding peace to our lives. Every decision we make to truck minimal and every dollar we save is a step toward truck wealth and financial freedom. Trucking minimal is a key piece for accelerating your wealth in your truck independently, retire early strategy, and therefore using trucking as a vehicle to live your best life. So I will leave you with one final Rockefeller quote: "The key to sensible living is simplicity." And that's coming from one of the richest people of all time. Truck minimal. Thanks for watching.